Good morning. My name's Kathy Dickson, and I am here today to host another edition of Northaven Voices. And I am really privileged and grateful to be interviewing Patty Harvey. So, good morning, Patty.
Good morning. Good to be with you.
Yeah, well, this is wonderful. I didn't really have an agenda, but I did want to, well, that's not true entirely. I do want to ask you one question about your artistic creative talents and how that has interwoven with Northaven.
Oh, wow. Actually, that's one of the things that keeps me going. We have a network of artists at Northaven that kind of feed on each other in a very creative and lovely way.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to get together every Monday and paint up at the church. And it started with Linda Noblin and me.
Mm.
And we were doing it in each other's homes, and we kept adding more people as we found people that said, well, gee, that would be fun, without having to pay to take lessons, just
Right.
kind of being informed by what each other is doing, as we try to figure things out. And it grew to so many people. We started meeting at the church, and then life got busy and it kind of faded away, but we formed a network, and now we meet together weekly on Zoom.
And is that part of the poetry group as well, or is that a
No,
separate?
that's another whole thing. I like poetry too, and we started a class with Tom Walker. And some of us get together, and we also have a writing group. So Northaven is just so filled with creativity, and it's just there, and you don't have to be, professional or expert. It just, and so that was the other thing about being an artist at Northaven, is I've had so many opportunities to share my art.
Mm.
And I don't think that would happen in the general world because it's private. You put your heart into something, and then you're not sure if it'll be accepted. And I'm one who would not be out knocking on doors saying, can I show my art?
Right.
And so it's been a real gift to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it seems like the artistic personality isn't always into the sales and promotional part of stuff.
No way,
Yeah, absolutely. So
I'm painting myself out of house and home during the pandemic. And any of my friends who have a birthday, I say, would you like a piece of art? I just recently did that a couple of times, and it's fun to see what people pick.
yeah, I'm sure that's true. So how is that transition? You mentioned something about transitioning to online. How has that kind of evolved with art transition?
Well, our pastor Marty started a group called Creatives in Captivity on Thursday
Oh,
night.
I didn't know that. Okay.
And so you can click on the link, and golly, sometimes there are 15 or so of us, sometimes there are like 8. And we send our work in ahead of time. And it's really wonderful. We've got sculptors, we've got stained glass.
Oh, wow.
Painting of all different media, and also musicians and poets. And so whatever you're working on, you lift up, and it's Linda Noblin puts them together in a Zoom slideshow so we can share with each other. And I just never cease to be amazed at the creativity and what one person is doing. I wouldn't have thought of the questions that are asked about where does that come from. It's really a God thing, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just a way to get in touch with it.
Yeah. And I think one of the beautiful things for me, at least in the process of creating, is that you're present in that moment. And
absolutely. Nothing else counts. Yeah.
Right. You're not future pacing. You're not living in the past.
Yeah.
You're in that creative moment, which is really the gift of life, to be fully present. Right. And
yes.
So, yeah. Okay. So when people send in this art, is it all different kinds of art?
Absolutely.
All kinds of, okay. And how would one get involved if one was interested?
Well, that's the easy part. It used to be on the calendar, but Marty set it up, but Renee Robinson runs it, and art goes to Linda to get the presentation ready.
Okay.
So, we can send you a link. Anybody's welcome. And, I forgot to mention one of our newest members is Gail Smith, who is creative as a photographer. She has put together these amazing videos that have music with them, and they're touring different art installations. And the last one we did was the one in Barcelona, that amazing church that's been being built for half a century.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And you're walking through, and she was wanting us especially to look at light, inside the cathedral. And she was playing a Leonard Bernstein piece I'd never heard before. That's just phenomenal. So, I mean, it's all kinds of different things.
I love that. I love that art creates such a atmosphere and such beauty a lot of times. So, all right. Enjoy. Yes. Well, that's actually one of the questions on here. What brings you joy?
My whole life I've been very much involved in people. I love the diversity of friendships, and I've had many close friendships at Northaven. You just kind of, you're working on maybe a social action project together, and you discover you have all these amazing things in common. In Sunday school yesterday, I had a chance to do one-on-one with a woman I'd never really talked one-on-one with before, and it was just amazing. So there's another one. So it just crops up, and people give me energy. I'm an extrovert.
Yes. Yeah, me as well. And that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. I guess tell me about one of your happiest moments.
Oh, gosh. All right. Since the pandemic, everything's kind of changed and it's upside down now, because given my druthers, I'd be out with people all the time. And so I sort of neglected my yard. My mother used to love to work in the yard, and I thought it was just this big headache. But when I had to be out there all spring, oh my goodness, I started planting stuff. Nature just feeds me. And, when I think of mountaintop experiences, many were on mountaintops or hiking in the woods, or I love the ocean and anything involved in water. There's a peace and calming that comes with that. And so not being able to go places, I've discovered beauty just very much in my backyard. And I hate my chain link fences, so I put weavings on it.
Oh,
and so, it's just, it's amazing what you can do with a lot of time and not a whole lot of activity.
Exactly.
So anyway, now I invite anybody who feels safe enough to come and sit in my backyard with me. It's just beautiful.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. So, Patty, with being an extrovert and getting energy from people, is there a lot of time now that you're on Zoom, or how do you interact? Do you do much interaction socially as far as, being distant?
Very little in person, honestly. I had surgery in June, which made me hyper alert on, the possibility of catching stuff.
Yeah.
And so Zoom has been a lifesaver for me. So many church groups. I used to be a crazy mad bridge player too, and I had several friends I've been playing with for probably 30 years. And so it's been really fun. We've discovered a thing called Tabletop Simulator, and with Zoom and that, you can play bridge remotely. So I played bridge with one young woman who used to go to our church, Laura Melton. She doesn't have the last name Laura Melton anymore, but anyway, she's in California. She plays with us on Thursday nights, and it's been lovely to get reconnected with her.
And is it all kinds of board games? Is it all kinds of card games or board games, or just?
Yeah, you can set it up however you want to. It gives you the tabletop, and then however many decks of cards and whatever you want, and then you go from there.
Wow.
It's awkward. It's just like nobody would do it if they could sit in a room with somebody and play. But, as opposed to not, it's pretty good.
Yeah, this brave new world of, going online.
I'm thankful for technology in a way I never have been. I've always kind of turned away from it as not worth my time.
Yeah, unfortunately, me as well. And it's proving to be a bit of a detriment, because I'm not, there's so much online, and I like to surf, but not necessarily, set things up, and kind of learning how to do that more. So
I have seen you in our neighborhood walking, and that's one of my other joys, is just being out. And, I've seen the neighborhood in a whole new way, and it makes you feel connected to people that you never thought you were connected. When we were reading White Fragility as a church, I kept wanting to accost neighbors of color in my neighborhood to say, well, do you feel safe? Tell me about your life. And I thought, no, this is just a little bit too much, But, there's that need for connection and that hopefulness that if we could just sit together, things would be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read that book as well. And I think what really resonated with me was that it's really a white person's problem. I think white people, with white privilege, need to really educate ourselves on on that and really listen to our Black and brown brothers and sisters that have a very different experience. I personally have never really felt threatened when I've been pulled over by police officers, but a lot of people, that's not their experience at all. So
Well, you and I are both mothers of sons. And to me, that's where it just hits me in my heart that I can't imagine raising sons and being afraid every time they leave the house.
yes,
You know,
yeah,
so I can't stand it. And because I'm older, I'm thankful for anybody younger that reads it because I can relive and replay so many situations in my work life where, you know, I worked for the state and we had a million rules on how to make the playing field level.
mm.
And I knew them all and I thought I followed them all. And after reading that book, I'm just thinking, you know, there's so much more that I could have done if I'd just been a little bit more aware of the power I had. And
Well,
the good
but how much
always,
of it is, yeah, I'm just wondering, you said all those rules, but how many of those rules were systemically just needed to be totally reformed, the whole system, not just a rule here or there. I don't know.
You know, what I remember is specific people, you know, and I followed the rules and it didn't always come in their favor. And, you know, I'm thinking a more compassionate look at that would have opened me up to being less concerned about my ego or the power that you wield, you know. So I don't know. It's been a real eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you said something about the younger generation, and I'm always hopeful that they are not nearly as, what's the word? I mean, that they're much more colorblind than I think we are. Or
I know we raised them to be that way.
Yeah, because it's like for me, most anything, once you get to know somebody that's different, really different than you are, and you get them as a person, you know, and you just form a friendship, it's like, why would that even be? I don't know, because everybody's so different. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So this gardening is a new kind of venture for you, and you enjoyed it, and okay.
Yeah. But more than gardening, you know, I planted things that I liked, pretty flowers. I have a lot of shade, and so it's really a setting for sitting in the backyard and reading. Okay. It's not so much, I love to dig in the dirt. Nah, not so much.
Yeah.
But right now, it's been a focal point where I can invite a friend over to sit outside with me. You know, it's pretty. It's created the atmosphere that I love.
Yes, and this past weekend was so beautiful.
My gardening.
Yeah, and October's such a pretty month in Texas. I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah, sitting out and okay. So anything else that I know about Northaven? When did you arrive at Northaven, and maybe delve into that a little bit?
I figure I've told that to everybody that's known me a long time, but just in case there are a few that don't. We moved back to Dallas. I was raised in Dallas. And one of the odd things about my life is that I'm living in the family home that I grew up in. I moved to Kansas when I was married and got a divorce, and my kids were very little. I tried to stick it out up there and ended up moving back to Dallas in 1980, I think. And so it's been a long time. And my goal, I was really super involved in the church up there in Kansas, having been married to a minister. That's another little secret fact about me. And so when I came here, my goal was I was going to visit a bunch of different churches before I got involved, because I know how that works. You know, if they see an eager new person coming in, before you know it, you're just really up to here. Mm-hmm. So the very first Sunday that we came, we visited Northaven. And I had two little boys that were like about 6 and 3. And when we visited and we were driving out of the parking lot, they said, "Can we join?" And I was blown away. I came because I'd gone to seminary at Perkins, and I'd heard of the reputation of Northaven.
Yeah.
I married a Methodist minister, but I grew up an Episcopalian. So I never went to a Methodist church growing up. Mm. And so my kids were so enculturated in the Methodist church, and I love its stance on social action. So even though I love the liturgy of the Episcopal Church, there was never any going back as far as I was concerned. So we were going to visit every Methodist church in Dallas. And my kids wanted to join Northaven after 1 week. And so I would take them to all these other churches who also had good reputations, who I thought they ought to see. And as we would leave, they'd say, now can we join Northaven? They never forgot. And there's something about the spirit of the place. It just kind of blows me away when I think about it, because it's absolutely the place I love and where we can grow, and you don't have to unlearn stuff from a child growing up. You know, you're taught with integrity and authenticity and deep love. And being a single mother, having so many wonderful men in the church over the years that were just so important to my kids. The youth program here, there are just countless people that really engaged my kids in very positive ways. It's where they first came across the whole idea of gays and straights. And it was mind-boggling for two pre-adolescent boys who'd never been exposed to anything like that. And they just couldn't be more outspoken advocates now, because they've been taught in Sunday school. They've had youth group sponsors. It matters to them, and so I'm so grateful. I don't know that another place would have given us all of that.
Yeah, that all of that acceptance and role models and people that they met and mentors. So yeah, that's
words to say, and the strong beliefs to stand up for. When I first joined Northaven, the big thing was anti-nuclear protests. And so a group of us met up at Holy Covenant Church when Jack Soper was the minister. And members from Northaven and Holy Covenant did all manner of plotting and planning and protesting together. So it's such a neat full circle thing to get to embrace Marty and Jack now.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That is a nice circle. Yeah. What are you involved in currently, social justice wise? Is there one particular thing, or environment, or racism?
There has been. I'm a volunteer, and I'm passionate about North Dallas Shared Ministries. Partly because my career was in social work through the state. And so it's always been my heart. I loved using government money to help people. That was a good, since I sure never had any, And as I retired, it was kind of the last thing I thought I wanted to do again, because you can kind of get burned out.
Yes.
And it took me a while to find my way to NDSM, but my mother had volunteered there. Her church was a member. And she was a consummate secretary. So back in the day, before everybody had a computer on their desk, she would enter all the files. And so, and she never, it gave her an insight into the stuff I cared about in a way that she never had in her life. And so, when I started looking around for things to do, I went back there, and I can't say enough about the scope and span of the program and how it's grown and how it continues to serve people. But right now I can't go. And
well, so they're doing, for those that are unfamiliar with North Dallas Shared Ministries, do you just want to kind of unpack that a little bit?
It's so wonderful. It's an agency that was begun probably 20 or so years ago, maybe 30. And it was all the different churches in North Dallas who band together and said, we have all these people knocking on our door wanting help. And you don't always have cash on hand, and you don't really know where to send people. And so it was started so that we could combine our resources and our volunteer strength. And so it's the number of churches. If I'd have thought I was going to talk about this, I'd have the facts and figures right in front of me. But it's a bunch of churches, and it's a bunch of zip codes. And we have an agreement around the Metroplex. If someone comes in and wants help, we will help them one time with food, because, you don't want someone to have found your doors and send them away empty. But we'll also give them a referral to agencies closer to where they live. So we really, right. We try to specialize on the ones that live close by. And you would think in North Dallas there aren't any poor people, but you'd be so wrong. Our neighborhood, for one, but I mean, it's the philosophy at North Dallas Shared Ministry is to provide help for people that are almost making it, but just need a little something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when it first started, we were kind of strict about who we could help with food, but now if someone walks in hungry, they always get food. We get some of our food from North Texas Food Bank and from donations.
Mm-hmm.
And grocery bags full. I mean, it's generosity. It's fabulous. Mm-hmm. They also have a clothing closet, which is way more than a closet. It's like a store, and a lot of volunteers work in there and sort the clothes. And people come there when they're trying for job interviews, when their kids need stuff. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Diapers, all that kind of stuff. And then there are some who are in a crisis, and right now it's so many I can't even believe it. Who can't pay the rent.
Yeah.
They're poor. If someone comes in and asks for help with rent, they have to have a plan for how they're going to pay it the following month. If someone is totally out on the street, it's really hard to get them into an apartment. But if they've been paying it and they have a good work history and a good everything, then we pay their rent.
Well, how is that working now with COVID and such an abrupt? Sorry?
I'm glad you asked, because since I can't be there, I tend to think nothing's happening, and it's amazing. They've doubled the amount of people they've helped. Oh. And it's a very small core of volunteers. Judy Rory, who goes to our church, and her husband Colin are two of the mainstays. They're there 5 days a week or more. Mm-hmm. They provide school uniforms. They provide school supply. I mean, it's just incredible. They also have set up a whole medical clinic that does dental work, that does doctors.
So needed. Yeah.
I mean, I guess the latest and greatest that I think is so important is they provide counseling for people. If you're dealing with a crisis like, food fragility and where you're going to live. There's so many things that come along with that you need help with. And so they have, and most stuff now is done by just a very few people online. We found a way for them to apply for whatever benefits they want online, and we get all the verification. So they pass out food 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, to households. Mm. And on Friday, it's the senior program, and they serve only seniors.
Oh, okay.
And, but you can go to the website, NDSM.org. It's just such a great place.
Yeah, well, a little follow-up on the counseling. I think right now, with so many people feeling isolated and with school and just so many different stressors, is that a place people can go and get that kind of counseling? Wow.
I think, and it's free.
Wow, that's wonderful.
They also do ESL, and it makes me think, as I'm gushing on about NDSM, you can tell me when to stop. I also am so thrilled that Northaven has a connection with Vickery Meadow. And, that's another area completely different in Dallas, with a lot of immigrant families that are trying to find their way. Mm-hmm. And I learned about that, of course, through Martha Stowe, who's the executive director of the Vickery Meadow Youth Foundation. Mm-hmm. Through that, I got involved in a program called Eagle Scholars. Mm. And I can't tell you how much that means to me. These kids are identified kind of early on, like 5th and 6th grade, as maybe having the potential to go to college, maybe not having the support from the family, of having a clue how to do that. Mm-hmm. And so what volunteers do is we sit for them to have some practice interviews. Oh. And the last one I did was so fun, because they had to have interviews and written stuff to get into the right middle school, if it's a gifted program or if it's a program that points them toward medical. They have all kinds of these wonderful magnets, but there's a lot of competition to get in. Mm-hmm. And what you find with these children is many of them speak so many languages, and they've really been the quickest ones to assimilate. And so they're helping their families in so many ways to get there. One little girl, she seemed so shy, and she didn't think she had anything that she could brag about. She had learned English in Malaysia on a dirt floor school. Wow. And so when they were in the airport in Paris trying to get to the United States, she was the only one who could speak any of the languages to help them find their way.
Wow.
It just touches you. And so, you coach these kids, talk about what you've been able to accomplish, and how, what your strengths are. So you help pull out that kind of stuff. And in return, you just meet these bright-eyed, beautiful future leaders. I just know. So that's been a joy.
Yes, I remember I moved here when I was 16 and coming to a whole new environment, a whole new culture. I didn't have any of the trauma that I think a lot of the refugees in Vickery Meadow have
Yeah.
suffered, and to imagine starting all new and trying to navigate a whole another system. And yeah, so that's wonderful. That is wonderful.
I'm so proud of our church for doing that.
Yeah, yeah, Vickery Meadow, and they even were helping the school in that
Yeah,
area.
they can,
Tasby? Was it?
yeah, Tasby Middle School, and they also had an elementary school. And
Oh,
depending on the work of the, it really depends on the principal and the staff. But we've done a lot of nice things for the elementary school teachers, like getting them breakfast on their first week back, or buying kits. Teachers have to spend their own money for so many things.
I know. That's
And
tragic.
refugee kids need so much. And
Right.
so they had a wish list one year, and it was kind of like a Christmas tree, thing that Salvation Army does. And we adopted different
Yeah.
teachers and bought the stuff they needed. And I found myself in different stores going, whoa, I never thought about that, but to imagine teachers that are expected to just come up with all these things to help these kids.
Do you know if the schools are open right now? Do you know at elementary school or how that transition is going? I wonder. I'm just curious in Vickery Meadow.
Well, I know that some are back because in my very own neighborhood where I walk, the parking lots are full, and around pickup time and drop off time, there are people. So I'm assuming that they're open.
Yeah.
And some have chosen to stay home. But there again, the children with the least resources, they are passing out like tablets that they can use. But the younger ones, it's so difficult.
Yeah. And I think if anything, COVID has kind of shown this gap between the haves and the have-nots too. And
always been there, but now it's just
highlighted, I think. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I was just curious if, as a parent, what a gut-wrenching decision to have to make, and I think for a lot of us, how much we care about the economy, and of course needing jobs and income, but also safety, public safety, and how to kind of navigate those two. So I don't know if I had young kids, when to send them back to school. I don't know. That would be tough.
I know. I keep thinking, I love kids, and I'm thinking, maybe some of us ought to step up and watch children. Some of the ones that have to go to work. There's so many possibilities, but you're worried about your own safety, and you think these grandiose thoughts, but it takes a village, and I'm thankful to be in the one that cares and does stuff.
That's so true. So true. Yeah.
Another thing I'm in that I could switch the subject if you want to is choir. The music ministry at Northaven is just amazing too. And I've sung with so many different choir directors over the years, and each one of them brings their unique gifts and talents. And we just made another transition, and we have this delightful young choir director. I know he's loaded with new ideas. And so we're having all kinds of conversations about what we can and can't do.
And how is that working online, choir online?
Horrible. But, we love the people because, the tricky thing is if you try to sing together online, there's a delay. And so it's just god awful. But we do it. He has us mute so we can learn the music. And then a week ago Saturday, we went to our celebration garden with our masks on and sang together.
Oh, okay. All right.
It was awesome, because if that is one of the things that feeds you.
Yes.
Service online is a little bit lacking in that regard, and we think there's more that we can do. Right. And so for Worldwide Communion Sunday coming up, we're going to get together with Christ Foundry, and we're going to learn to sing some songs together, and each of us sing in the garden, and hopefully it'll be recorded and we can use it, later on.
Very creative. Yeah.
Well, but you have to be. And Nick, our new choir director, also teaches high school music. And so he's very well versed in how to work in this crazy place. And I think he's been amazingly flexible while he's learning kind of who we are and what feeds us, Yeah. So we're a tricky bunch.
Yeah, no, I was going to say when I'm in worship, I know music has always been one of those avenues that just goes straight to my heart, and it sets such a mood. And I've really missed that in in that community, you know, that live spirit that you just feel. So, you know, some things kind of are much harder to translate on Zoom than obviously
Absolutely.
live in community. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's worth the effort. You make some wonderful friends in the process of learning the music and supporting each other along the way.
do you continue to meet once a week? And
Yep,
okay, so the
on
schedule's
Zoom.
on Zoom. Okay, all right.
It's a checking in, and we're going to have a choir party out at Ellen Key's place coming up in October, which we're looking forward to. And
Oh,
we can
good.
do something outside. But singing with a mask on is really a trip. You
Yeah,
don't really
I bet.
fit. It's all right there in your face. But you know, I'm not sure that the muffled sound is all that wonderful. But the heart and spirit needs that
Yeah.
somehow or other.
Yeah, absolutely. I know as I'm getting older too, I hate to keep asking people to repeat themselves, but just hearing somebody behind a mask is kind of a trying thing too. Not to mention smelling your own breath in a mask. I mean, ugh. So
Oh, yeah. We can do this.
we can do it. We can do it. All right. Well, I don't know if there's anything else. I'll just look over the questions. Anything about your spiritual journey you'd like to share or not, or
You know me, I always have stuff to share. I don't know how many years ago it's been that I've been more and more led into contemplative or quiet meditation processes as being super meaningful to me. And
an extrovert? There's something about moving more into that introverted spaces.
it's a whole new world to me. I think a lot of people live there, not me. So one of the trickiest things about it, and one of my favorite writers of this kind of material is Parker Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
And he describes trying to get in touch with the holy. It's like you're sitting in the forest and you'd hope to see a wild animal. You know, you're wanting to see the deer and, you know, all of the animals. If you go running through the forest yelling, they're never going to come. And so the only way to invite and welcome the spirit is to be totally still. Still your mind, still your heart, be open and available. And the practice of that has yielded amazing results to me. I never would have found it or done it by myself because it's not my thing. And so, you know, we have groups at Northaven that are so helpful in that. Passage meditation is one where their practice is if you internalize the word, the beautiful passages from all the different religious traditions, then you have those within you and you can go there and it helps to still your mind. And then we have a thing, Circles of the Spirit, you and I are involved in, that's based on the Parker Palmer kind of a Quaker type of service where you sit together in a small group and there's a lot of silence. And then with eyes closed and with deep reverence for each other's journey, you listen. And that listening is so powerful. And speaking into that silence, you're not alone as you're trying to do these hard things, but it's meant the world to me. And I've grown so much in my trust that it's there, that, you know, the presence of God and the Holy is always there. And it's me that's too busy to notice.
Yeah.
And so that's
taking the time. Absolutely. I think one of the gifts for me with Parker Palmer is that tendency to just want to fix things all the time. And in that circle, not fixing anybody, just listening and really, yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Patty. This was a delight. And thank you for all that you do and who you are. And look forward to seeing you and catching up in person one day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.